So, um, usually a handshake is, a sign of trust. But if you were renting out an apartment in Mexico, doing it on a handshake could literally result in the government permanently seizing your property.
Yeah, it is a pretty staggering reality.
Right, because, well, in the eyes of the Mexican Civil Code, an informal landlord is basically a guilty landlord.
Exactly. And that is why today we are taking a deep dive into the Mexican lease agreement, or the contrato de arrendamiento, to really show you why the stakes are just so incredibly high.
Yeah, it is about so much more than just like a lost security deposit. So to avoid a total disaster, it all starts with the basic foundation.
Right, the essential players. You absolutely need the landlord, the tenant, and we highly recommend a guarantor.
The person who steps up if the tenant defaults, right?
Exactly. But here is the major catch that the sources highlight. This contract absolutely must be in writing to legally exist.
And I really want to push back on that, or at least ask why that is so rigidly enforced. I mean, verbal contracts exist everywhere else in the world.
They do, yeah. But Mexican civil law historically views the tenant as the vulnerable party here.
Oh, okay.
So if there is no written contract, the law, specifically Article 2406, assumes the property owner is acting in bad faith.
Wait, so the immediate legal assumption is that you, the landlord, are hiding something.
Yes. The authorities basically assume you are trying to dodge taxes or maybe avoid basic safety accountabilities.
Wow. So the law actively penalizes the property owner for being informal. By defaulting to protecting the tenant, you basically take the fall for the lack of paperwork.
You take the entire fall. Without that piece of paper, you are assuming all of the liability for literally everything that happens on that property.
Okay, so it makes total sense that a contract protects you from a bad tenant.
Mm.
But what really blew my mind in the research is that it actually protects you from the government.
Yes, the National Law of Extinction of Domain.
Right. Wait, so let me get this straight. If my tenant secretly runs, like, a drug or kidnapping ring out of my house, the government seizes the house.
They do?
Not just from the criminal, but from me. I mean,
Right.
we're just reporting what the sources say here, but that feels incredibly unjust if I didn't even know about it.
I know, it feels incredibly harsh. But it is a severe, real-world mechanism designed to seize assets tied to organized crime.
So how do you protect yourself?
Well, if illegal activities happen on your property, a precise written contract detailing the lawful use is your only proof of good faith.
I see.
Yeah, it shows the authorities that you handed over possession for a strictly legal purpose, you vetted the tenant, and you had absolutely no part in the crime.
Okay, so the contract essentially acts as a legal firewall. Like how a firewall isolates your computer from a virus, this isolates your legal ownership from the criminal infection, I guess, of your tenant's actions.
That is a perfect analogy. And, that legal firewall extends to bureaucratic threats, too.
Like what?
Well, let's say your tenant decides to run an unrecorded side business out of the living room. Yeah, and an employee gets hurt. Without a contract explicitly stating the property is strictly residential, you are defenseless against national labor and tax authorities.
Wait, they can hold you liable for the tenant's shadow business?
Absolutely. The SAT or IMSS can come right after you.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And speaking of the tax authorities, the sources noted that you have to issue official digital tax invoices for the rent.
Right, the CFDI receipts, that is crucial.
The mechanism here is just wild to me. If you do not generate those specific tax receipts, a judge won't even let you sue for unpaid rent.
No, they won't. You are locked out of the legal system entirely.
Completely locked out.
And if you can't go to court, you open the door to another massive risk. Under Mexican law, if someone occupies a property uncontested for long enough without a lease...
Proving they are merely a renter.
Exactly. Without that proof, the law can eventually view them as the rightful owner.
So a bad tenant could essentially squat their way into legally owning your house. That is crazy.
It happens, which is why nailing down those physical and legal boundaries is critical.
Which actually brings up a great tangible tip from the sources. They suggest attaching a photographic inventory to the contract.
Yes, highly recommended.
It just completely stops those petty disputes, over pre-existing wall stains or that one tree in the garden that suspiciously died on its own.
Right. It is all about creating undeniable proof. But having proof is really only half the battle.
What is the other half?
Enforcing it. A standard eviction trial can take years of agonizing court battles.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
No. But a modern, well-crafted lease can include what are called alternative justice clauses.
I wanted to ask about this because this felt like a massive aha moment in the research. It is essentially a pre-agreement on how to handle a dispute, right?
Exactly. By signing an alternative justice agreement alongside the lease, both parties agree to a streamlined legal process right up front.
So if things go south,
If the tenant stops paying, you legally bypass the years-long trial process. You move straight to a judge ordering the execution of the eviction.
wow, so you skip the agonizing wait entirely.
You do. It is a game changer.
So paper isn't just power, it is speed. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive to master the Mexican lease agreement.
Thanks for having me.
But before we go, we want to leave you with a thought to mull over. If a precise written agreement with alternative justice clauses can bypass years of agonizing court battles, could applying this level of clear, preventative boundary setting entirely eliminate the worst interpersonal conflicts in other areas of our lives?